All right, hello and welcome to the first ever pricing and promoting your live sale panel here in Vintage Boss Babes. I am so excited because we already have 30 live viewers. My goal was 50 tonight. Let's see if we can hit 50. This was not in my script at the top of my intro, but I'm just going to ask you guys right now if you can share out this panel, share out this live, because there are going to be some huge educational insights that are shared tonight. I have personally never hosted a panel of this nature, and so I am just thrilled that tonight's 8 panelists said yes to this opportunity to share with you their wealth of knowledge behind hosting successful live sales of vintage fashion and accessories here on Facebook. This is so exciting. All right, so I'm going to see who's tuning in. I'm going to check out the comments right now. Hello, hello, hello. I'm seeing some familiar names. I'm seeing some new names. If you are tuning in live, let me know in the comments with just a hello, an emoji, or a whatever is on your mind statement. If you're excited, let me know. My name is Sammy Davis, and I am the founder of Vintage Boss Babes. We have been a buy-sell community here on Facebook since July of 2019. Yes, we are celebrating our 3-year anniversary this month, and what better way to celebrate than to provide you guys with a free educational panel tonight. We have a lot to cover, and per usual, I like to talk, but tonight I want to give our panelists as much of the center stage as possible to share their wisdom with you. So really quickly, I want to talk about why we are hosting tonight's panel. We are hosting tonight's panel because as an admin and as a founder of this community, and as someone who believes in the power of resale in creating financial freedom in the lives of people who choose it, I've realized that there is not enough access to information that helps to empower those who want to participate in this industry. A lot of the conversation happens behind the scenes. A lot of the conversation happens because you just might make a friend, or you have your own trials and tribulations. You fall on your face and you figure things out. But that takes a lot of time. And that can be really frustrating, and that can be really disempowering and really discouraging. So that's why tonight we are welcoming 8 veteran live sellers who each represent a different niche of vintage fashion and accessories that are talented in their own ways in a fashion that is the same but also different from one another. And they're going to share their insights with you around how they have become successful Facebook Live sellers through pricing and promoting their live sales. Now, because I can't talk to you guys on the panel, or we can't talk to you guys on the panel for 4 hours, we have 4 panelists who are representing promoting your live sale, and we have 4 panelists who are representing pricing your live sale. So really quickly, guys, I'm just going to remind you why we are here. Welcome to Pricing and Promoting Your Live Sale for Optimal Success. If you're tuning into the replay, which some of you may be on YouTube, here on Facebook, or on Instagram, let me know in the comments with #replay. And again, we are at 42 live viewers. I know we're going to get to, just hit 44. I know we're going to hit 50. Let me know in the comments that you are here, and share this free educational training out to one of your favorite Facebook groups that focuses on resale or fashion, so that they can glean these insights as well. So tonight, we have 8 panelists. We're about to meet them momentarily, guys. I'm so excited. They're behind the scenes. I can see them now. But we have 4 panelists representing promoting your live sale, and they are Natalie Pennington-Rains, Shanae Cruz, Melissa Yui Johnson, and Jordan Alexander. So we will meet them momentarily. And then our pricing panelists, so this is pricing your garments and your accessories for the live sales, are as follows. We have Odilia, Avalos, Barton, Maggie or Margaret Emmett Bottorff, Laufer, and Zoe of Zoe's Vintique. Zoe, I actually don't know your last name. I think it's Gallery, but I just call you Zoe's Vintique, and we all know you as Zoe's Vintique here on Facebook. All right, we just hit 47 live viewers. I'm super excited. I know we're going to hit 50 as we get this party started. So let's meet our panelists, shall we? Actually, before I bring them in, who here is excited to meet our panelists? I'm going to check. Oh, there it is. Let's meet our panelists. I'm going to check our comments really fast and see who's here as we wait. Hello, hello. Yes. We've got some great viewers tonight. Hello, hello, hello. Yay! I see some new names. All right, so let me know in the comments if you're tuning into the live. Are you ready to meet our panelists? Yes. All right, I'm going to bring them in one by one. Hello. 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 Guys, we got 8. We got 8. Yes. We've got Maggie. She's coming in. I see Maggie and Zoe. All right.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hey, ladies.
Live viewers.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, guys. So unfortunately, we are missing Shanae. I know she will hop on live. If anyone is watching and knows Shanae LaCruz, if you could message her. But she did get on live earlier today with me, so I know she's going to be hopping on. So we might just have to include her later on in tonight's panel. I want to make sure that everyone has a place tonight on the panel. So I'm just going to start from left to right and ask our Boss Babe panelists tonight to introduce themselves. Autumn, why don't you take us away?
Oh my gosh. Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Autumn Laufer from Audie's Closet. I am based out of Virginia, so I'm on the East Coast, and I'm a full-time dance professional. My degree is in dance education. I've been dancing and teaching dance for 15 years. I love it. I just started selling retail a few years ago, maybe like 3 years ago, but I really got into selling vintage in the past couple of years. But I've collected vintage my whole life. I was born in the 80s. I love the 80s. I love it. I'm a real 80s. So, but I primarily kind of specialize in more like 80s and early 90s vintage is what I love. But I'll still throw in some 60s and 70s here and there because I don't really wear that style doesn't mean I don't love it and appreciate it and want to share it with all of the ladies who are rocking that style. But yep, I'm excited to be here, Sammy. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Autumn. Thank you. All right. Next, we have Jordan. Introduce yourself, Jordan.
Hi. Okay. I'm Jordan Alexander, and I'm with Glitter Funk. And I've been reselling for probably a little over a year. And I was introduced by Sabrina of LaFab. And I live in Nashville, Tennessee. I do this full time, and I'm also a painter. So I do hand painted jackets and hand painted corsets or whatever I'm in the mood for at the time, basically. But I'm still learning a lot. So I'm still pretty new to it. Yeah, and I'm from Nashville, Tennessee. And yeah, so I'm just now getting into having my own space for it and getting it all organized and everything.
Awesome, Jordan. Thank you so much for being on tonight. All right, next we have Odilia. Introduce yourself, Odilia.
Oh, I gotta put these on. There we go. Hi, I'm Odilia Barton from San Antonio, where it's like 103, I think, still here right now. So, it's hot up here. So actually, in October will be my 20th year in business. Unbelievable. I just recently decided to, within the last year, decided to spend. I'm a fashion girl by heart, but I also do jewelry. So I actually do them both equally. I buy and offer them equally. So that's a lot going on. I'm lucky to work part-time from home and make, what I guess would be a full-time income, which is necessary. I have a pretty full life outside of this. I'm also I'm the full-time caretaker for my mother who has Alzheimer's, and I'm pretty involved in that whole association. So that's why I need to work from home. And I'm really blessed to work from home. And I joined the Facebook pages on Thanksgiving of last year. And I started doing lives just this year in January. And it just sort of took to it like a duck to water. But up until then, I'd spent most of these 20 years doing pretty much the same thing. So it's kind of reinvigorated my whole business and gave me a little bit more of a community because I worked alone for so long, except for like a few assistants here and there. I've been the sole U.S. distributor for the Vintage Archives of Diane Freese the last 3.5 years. I also worked with Karen Zambos of Karen Zambos Vintage Couture and some other things. And I'm just excited to be here because this platform is so new, and all these pages are so relatively new that we're all kind of learning together, and we have no idea what's ahead. So that's nice, and I'm glad to be here.
Thank you, Odilia. Thank you for joining us tonight. All right, Melissa, please introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Melissa Johnson with Sloan Malone Vintage. I am in the Tampa Bay area, Gulfport, right below St. Petersburg, Florida. I have been a long time, I feel like I'm one of the OGs. I'm not going to tell on myself and tell my age, but I was born in the 70s. So I've just spent a long time. You know, my grandmother was a seamstress. My mom worked, for those of you who are from Chicago, my mom used to work in Marshall Field. So I've always sort of been around like fashion, and I worked for Ebony Magazine in Chicago for a while, and I covered the Ebony Fashion Fair. And, you know, the building was mid-century fabulousness. So, you know, the 70s and the 80s is kind of where I'm from and where my heart lives. And I've been collecting vintage for a while, but I started selling in about 2018. And Sammy was one of my first customers on Etsy. She can tell you all about that sometime. But started Facebook live sales around like the end of 2020-ish. So, you know, I've been branching out from there, doing different lives and social media. So I'm looking forward to talking to you guys all about that kind of thing and how to push your sales using your social.
Thank you, Melissa. And yes, I still have the coat that I bought from you. I will never sell it.
Awesome.
Amazing. And we have lost Zoe, but I know she will be back with us. So once she's back with us, we will have her introduce herself wherever we are. Okay, next, Natalie Pennington Rains. Please introduce yourself.
Hey. So I'm Natalie. I'm Natalie Rains, but everybody on here knows me Natalie Pennington Rains. I'm hearing a lot of feedback.
You are getting some feedback, yeah. That's okay. Do you want us to skip over you? And
no, that's fine. So I've been a vintage collector since I was in high school. And it literally started when I found my uncle's leather jacket that he had gotten made in Vietnam. So in high school, I was sporting his leather jacket from Vietnam, and that just kind of made me into my own style. No one else had a 1970s leather coat walking around. And then I started collecting a lot of leather coats in high school. I didn't start collections by Natalie until 2020 when Sammy pretty much forced me to be one of her first live sellers on her platform because I had lost my job, and she was like, Natalie, you need to sell some, because I've been a collector, so some of that vintage that you have. And so that's how collections by Natalie started, by Sammy pushing me to see what I had in inventory. My tagline is what bold vintage meets fresh modern. So I am not a straight vintage seller, but I love my vintage and I love my modern. But when I think of my vintage, it's bold, color, sparkles. When you think of collections by Natalie, it's one of the key things that you see is bold colors and sparkle. So I'm excited to be on tonight, and we'll see.
Thank you so much, Natalie. And yes, I did force you. I still to this day remember the conversation on the And if anyone here is playing back the actual live, that could be creating feedback. So I would just shut that tab down and then just watch it later. Okay, cool. Next up on my screen, we have Maggie Bottorff. Please introduce yourself, Maggie. And you were on mute, love, so you're going to have to unmute yourself. Yeah. There you are.
Here I am. Hello. Okay, I'm Maggie. I'm with the Resale Rebel. I'm based out of Dallas, Texas. I've been reselling for a few years, and I'm not strictly vintage clothing. I honestly resell toys and games, mostly vintage, also, modern designer. So I'm not exclusively vintage, but I do really enjoy it, and I collect vintage myself. So, for me, the thrill of the hunt for the collection is what drives me, and the reselling is just a benefit. For my full-time job, I am the pricing manager for the Michael stores, for e-commerce. I do all of the pricing for the website. So I feel like I have sort of a different perspective on pricing in the market, not only for, what I do professionally, but on my side business, which is truly my passion and something that just feeds my soul and gives me a lot of joy. So I hope that I can share some of my expertise with you guys. And thanks so much, Sammy, for having me.
You're welcome, Maggie. Thank you so much. Okay, next up we have Shanae. Shanae, you're also on. Yep. Introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. So I am Shanae Cruz. I am La Cruz Thrifts Beauties. Okay, I'm from Hartford, Connecticut. So why it's beauties in there is because originally I'm a makeup artist. So I was the infamous head makeup artist for the long legend Lord & Taylor. Okay, I was there for 13 years. So I started off in the clothes department, and then I made it down to the makeup department. Always been a fan of fashion, clothes. I was always thrifting throughout the years. I just kind of like decided to really take it seriously when Lord & Taylor closed all its doors. So sad about that. So I decided, I was going to open a store. So when I was on Facebook, I'm seeing this live. I'm like, what is live? People are doing the selling. So I had already had so much inventory of thrift. So I was like, I'm going to give it a try, but I've always had a love. I went to high school for fashion. I'm in the arts. I sing. So I'm very, very artistic. I love doing the live and the vintage. I'm a little bit of both. I'm a fan of really all the eras, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s. I'm not saying my age, but I love all eras. I have definitely, and the hairstyles that you can see, but yes, and I'm so happy to be here tonight. I'm vintage boss babes. Okay, giving my little perspective on promotions, pricing, however. But I love all you ladies. You ladies are great. Got a lot of nice stuff.
Thank you so much, Shanae. I did not know that about you and Lord & Taylor.
Yes, I know. I've done a lot of lines, dealt with a lot of brands of clothing. So I know a lot about the backhand and the ends and the trainings on all makeup lines. I was like their featured artist. So I would travel from store to store. So it was great. It was great.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for being on tonight. Okay, last but not least, live from Los Angeles, we have Zoe. I'm Zoe's Vintique. Please introduce yourself, Zoe.
Hello, everyone. I'm Zoe Guillory, the owner of Zoe's Vintique. I've had a passion for vintage since I was a kid. I was actually raised by my great grandparents. I am a 70s baby. On Thursday, I will be 50 years old. So kudos to that. That's a blessing in itself. I have been in business for actually 25 years, but with the storefront, almost 12 years. I specialize in vintage as well as in contemporary. My store is 2 stories. My upstairs is completely all vintage, and my downstairs is contemporary, one-of-a-kind pieces. I am so grateful to be on here. I think it's a a blessing to be able to see a lot of women coming on here and educating each other, because we still are learning. This live, this social media, it's always changing. So it's a blessing to be able to also help other women that want to do what we're doing, because growing is showing. It doesn't hurt for us to be able to show someone that we all can do this together.
Thank you so much, Zoe, and thank you so much for being on tonight. All right, guys, so we are going to jump right into, if you are tuning in, please put up our panelists who all said an absolutely capital letters yes when I asked them to partake in tonight's panel. We're going to jump right into our questions. So for those of us who are tuning in, whether it is the live or the replay, we have 3 questions for promoting your live sale, and we have 3 questions for pricing your garments and your accessories on your live sale. Most likely, you guys have questions. So right now, I want to let you know that you can drop those questions in the comments, because after our panel wraps, we will go over the Q&A. Perhaps some of our panelists will have to go to bed because it will be 10:30 EST. But for those of us who will be on the live, we will review those questions. So without further ado, let's jump right into, I went off screen there, promoting your live sale. So how do you promote your live sale? How do we as resellers reach our target audience, whether they are existing customers or potentially new customers? So our first question for that category tonight is, what is your personal promotional strategy that you have found to be the most effective for your live sales? And I want to hand the metaphorical mic over to Jordan Alexander out of Nashville, Tennessee to kick us off. Jordan, what have you found to be effective for you? And I think you're on mute, Levy.
There we go. Okay. So I think that the most important thing is to promote who you are first, and to find your find your communities. So for me, it was finding a couple communities, making the friends, finding kind of where my style gelled with people, and then building in that community, and then figuring out what I wanted to present, and being able to, take pictures of my personal style and to just promote my own personality and what I'm doing. And within doing that, I feel like it's just fun to make the friends along the way and get comfortable with everyone and build the relationships. So that's really important to me. And then the other strategies that I've had is just trying my very best to promote it like 3 days in advance. I don't always do that, but I've gotten in the habit of trying to make my own posters no matter what platform I'm on, just in case, and sharing those over more than one platform. So on Facebook and Instagram, on my stories and as posts, and tagging people that I know would be interested or that I think would be interested, and then paying attention to whether or not they appreciate that you're doing that, and then each day giving a little more of what you'll be showing to get people interested and ready for your show.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Jordan. Melissa, I'm going to hand the mic down to you. And I love Melissa personally because she uses Instagram a lot to also promote her live sales. So I hope that she's going to talk about that.
Absolutely. Well, as far as promoting a live sale in advance, I am a fan of the countdown, whether it is an actual real countdown or whether you're teasing things out in advance. It's just a way to just generate excitement and to give people the reminder that, okay, the sale is coming up. What I try to do, what my strategy is now, is I try to pick, because I don't have the time that I would love to create to shoot a whole bunch of different things. So I try to pick like maybe like 1 to 3 things that are like what I like to call my hero pieces. And those are the pieces that you all know what your hero piece is if in your whatever you're pulling for your sale. That's that piece that you know everybody's going to want. So that's the piece that I try to create like the best TikTok loving. I'm searching for like whatever the trending sound, the music is, and I'm building my promo around that. And I'm making an Instagram story with a countdown clock. I'm making an Instagram post with a countdown clock. I'm putting it on Facebook and saying, 2 days until 1 day, 1 hour, whatever. On TikTok as well. You can't really do a countdown on TikTok, but I sort of will put, coming in 2 days, this, 1960s, metallic dress with the trippy floral, And I just keep pushing that out to my audiences on all of those platforms, because there are people who aren't on all the platforms, but they will all, come to a Facebook if there's a specific piece or a sale that they're interested in.
That's a really good point. I love that you called it a hero piece, and I often tell sellers to post that the day before.
Right. That's the one you're going to sell. You're going to sell that, yeah.
Right. And sometimes a singular piece of content does better on Facebook than multiple pieces, especially if the lighting is appropriate. So I'm going to move that mic down to Shanae and then Natalie. Shanae, how do you promote your live sales? What works for you?
Okay, so what I found works for me is maybe a couple of days, 3-4 days before, I'll, hint to the audience or show them I'm thrifting and sourcing, just like in what we would call it in retail, operational energy. So basically you're pulling the customers in. So on social media, I'm sure there's another terminology, but you're kind of grabbing their attention by starting with a question of, what would you like to see me have in my live? What are some things you're hoping will be there? What sizes, just little things to put a little bug in the air. So it's kind of like pulling people in. And then of course, the day of your live, which you have granted us and allowed us to go live, a couple of hours before. So now it's almost like a repetitive, with the brain, it's almost like the people on social media, they're your babies, they're your children, you're keep instilling in them, something is good, something, if you keep, something's great about to happen. So all of that, trying to get them, excited and just, putting the bug in the ear, it's going to be a great live. And, and maybe, of course, I think we all do. I do at the last minute. You're like, okay, let me go see if I can see something else out there that I want to add to my live that might be really great.
I love that. What I hear you say, Shanae, is don't hesitate promoting multiple times. That you're going to have a live sale. Am I correct?
Yes.
Awesome. And what you alluded to was something that we have here in Vintage Boss Babes, which is a sneak peek live preview. And if that is something you can't do in your community of choice, you can still go live on your personal page and just let your audience, your customer base know that this is the sneak peek for the live to come. Has that proven to work for you pretty well here in Vintage Boss Babes, Shanae? The sneak peek live preview.
Yes, because in the beginning, everybody's not perfect. I wasn't doing that, but I found I'm doing that more when I'm getting ready for my live sales, and it's making them more successful, more promising to have a good live.
Awesome. So now I want to move on to wrap this question to Natalie. And Natalie has, if she wasn't planning on talking about it already, I want to ask if she will talk about also building her own community and creating a customer base there that she can promote her live sales too. So Natalie, what has proven to be the most effective promotional strategy for your brand?
So for me, it's more theme-wise. So for me, it's more theme-wise. Are y'all gonna do that?
If anyone is not on mute, just put yourselves on mute just to make sure that that's not causing the feedback.
Okay. So for me, I like doing theme lives, right? So I cultivate my rack way before my live. So I have racks throughout my house that as I know I have a live say on Thrift Days. I'm going to cultivate my rack. I literally set my rack for that particular live, right? So let's say I'm wanting to do sweaters, or if I'm trying to do dresses, or if I'm just trying to clear my rack. Y'all see a lot of clear the rack because I have so much inventory. I do a lot of clear the rack. So it's like bringing energy to whatever that theme is for me. So for me, I love doing reels and videos, right? I really do a lot of TikTok videos, and then I kind of save it and then post it I post it everywhere. You may get sick and tired of my promos, but I post to my Instagram feed, my Instagram stories, my Facebook group multiple times, my Facebook page and stories, and I do it on my personal page and stories. So I'm always promoting, and I try to promote 2 to 3 days prior to my live. And for me, I like to pick out like those statement pieces, like Melissa said, but I'll maybe do 3 to 5 pieces that I just think are like really nice, and then put it to my music, and then, kind of make a whole video out of it. So I find that really helps. When I think about it, creating events really help drive people to my live, right? So you create the event, and then you post the link to the event once you go live. So I have all these different tabs on my computer prior to the live, and then I just, copy and paste my links, saying I'm going live. And so it's like building that momentum. But for me, I love themes. So it just kind of works. I don't like mixing summer and winter items together. It's more so seasonal type of thing. So so that's how I promote, and I think it works pretty well because especially when you do those events, it gets people interested in coming. Now and then, I do that all on all of my social media platforms, and then the day of is when I also promote sneak peeks on the page that I am going live on. But mine is videos, because what I find is that Facebook promotes videos and reels more than a stagnant picture. So it doesn't necessarily get seen by as many people when it's just a picture. So even if your Canva is a GIF, right, it's considered a video, and it will get seen more than a stagnant picture. So the only time you see a stagnant picture for me is when I'm running behind on time and just don't have time, and I'm just throwing something together really quick. But for me, it's everything that I do is very intentional on what I'm trying to convey when I go live.
Amazing. Thank you so much for those insights. That was really, really helpful about actually creating an event. And then when you go live, putting the link of your live in your own event. That's
yes.
Awesome.
And make sure you're sharing that event. You need to really make sure you're comfortable with being able to share your own live to your audience. Never, ever expect that, the platform that you're on is going to promote you. You have to promote yourself. If you don't promote yourself, then you're not trying to grow. So that's what I think. And then when you had the question in regards to building my own community, so I've been building my community. I think I started in September of 2020. And it's just really, for me, it's just a place where my people feel comfortable, and then they always get to see who the true Natalie is, right? Who are you following? Why do you like me, type of thing. So I try to cultivate that type of community. So my community is called the Fashionista Tribe, and all of my members are my tribe. They're my tribe. They're the reason why I'm in business, right? If I didn't have my customers that continuously follow me, I would not have a business. So you need to make sure that you are giving your customers a reason to keep coming back to you, doing things on your own platform so that, you know, they continue to follow you wherever you go.
Excellent, excellent advice. Thank you so much, Natalie. So we are now moving into money, guys. We're going to talk about pricing our items. This is the number one question I get as an admin of Vintage Boss Babes. And to be quite frank with you, I can't always answer. And we're going to learn more about that tonight because each of our sellers who are representing pricing are going to share something different with you. So I want to hand the mic first over to Autumn Laufer. And I would love Autumn to talk about what makes some vintage clothing and accessory items more valuable, in your personal opinion, and then a little bit about your personal strategy for pricing your garments. And I think you're on mute, love. We want to hear you.
It's funny. I've been watching, you know, everybody be on mute, and I'm like, oh yeah, I got to remember to do unmute, and then I still forgot. Anyway, yes, I like I said, I've only been reselling the past couple years, but I've been loving and wearing vintage for like years and years and years. So I've been in a lot of different shops. I travel everywhere to thrift and vintage shop, and I think a big thing that does go into pricing is rarity of an item. And I feel like you get that knowledge only with kind of the experience of seeing a lot, whether it be in person or just watching other people and what they're showing and what they're selling. You're like, oh yeah, I've seen, like, you know, maybe we've all had that one Lawrence Kazar sequin jacket, you know, there's a bunch of those or things like that, versus there are some pieces that, you know, are more fragile, or they're just more rare, or there weren't as many made. So I think that is something that definitely goes into your pricing. Then you get into things like fabric content, you know, how well the label, even sometimes. I do really recommend anybody getting into vintage reselling, please share labels, because even if you're not familiar, like there's different random 80s labels that I personally collect, and are, you know, you're like Jordache, like, or Jordache, like, no, I'm like, yes, they're jeans. What are they? Or it's a denim jacket. Let me see, you know, and they're like, oh, I don't know this. So always share your labels, because even if you're not familiar, it might, you know, that jacket to somebody else might not really be worth anything, but to me, it's going to be worth a lot because it's a label I collect. So I think that's important. I think, of course, condition, you know, the wear and tear, whether it's a dead stock item. We use the term dead stock, meaning it's like new old stock. Like it still has the tags on it. It was in a shop, but it was never sold or worn. So it's dead stock. So that's kind of where that term comes from. But I also believe it's like the other ladies were saying about promotion. It's like knowing your crowd and your people. And one thing I do with pricing at pop-ups, because you're in person with people, depending where I'm at, the type of market, I know I can charge a certain price. So I can take certain items to that market, to that audience, and know I can get a little bit more money for them versus another market. I might take some of my not as expensive price things. But also, a little side note, I do this as strictly as a hobby, not as a profession or a full-time job. So there are other resellers I know that they do this full-time. This is their bread and butter, and they have a very specific strategy for their price, like a formula. But me, I just kind of go off of my years of experience and just kind of being around it. And just, that's like one of those things you just learn with time and just kind of with being in the community. So.
Awesome. Thank you, Autumn. And yes, there are going to be those of us in the industry that we're just using our experience to price items. Now, that's a great segue, because I want to make sure that we hear from Zoe of Zoe's Vintique. She has run a brick and mortar store for a number of years and also been in the industry for a number of years. So Zoe, share with us, especially, sorry guys, that's my timer, as a brick and mortar store owner, where you have a little bit more overhead, what makes some vintage clothing and accessories more valuable, where you're going to put on, you know, a little bit of a higher price tag? And then what's your personal pricing strategy?
The first thing is, it's also about doing your research of knowing about the designers. I mean, especially if you have vintage pieces, you have to do your research of knowing what are those pieces worth outside of me selling them in the store. That's the first thing. That's one thing I preach to anyone. Before you sell any vintage pieces, you must do your research. If you don't have the knowledge about what you're selling, it's like a lost cause. So that's the one thing I do. All about it also takes in the time of what it took for you to go and find those pieces. There was rare vintage pieces. You know, it takes the time for you to go sourcing. If it goes to a estate sale, if you're going to auction house, if you're going to garage sale or thrifting, those are still time that you have to add into that price as well. You know, the condition of the piece, size, all those things matter. So that's some ways of how I start with my pricing when it comes to the vintage clothing. Plus size, you already know it's hard to find. So when you're able to find a plus size 60s or 50s dress, you know, and then you also got to know your customer. When you know your customer base, you know that your customers are going to pay for those items. You know, I love it that I know my customers. I have regulars that already know what they're looking for. When they come through the door, I'm like, let's go upstairs. I already know what I have here for you because I know my customer base. And it's so important to me is once you learn who your customers are, everything else will fall into place because they're not going to question your price because they already know the research you've put in. They've already told you what they've been looking for. You done went out of your way to get those pieces for them. And they're going to be like, wow, she went above and beyond for me. So I'm going to pay her what she's asking for. So that is how I get started. Yes, ma'am.
That is such a great point about knowing your customer. And before we move on to Odilia, I want to ask you, Zoe, do you price things differently? Like if it's the same item in the store and then on a live, are they priced differently?
You know, I have learned each live is different. Each group is totally different. And what I love about Boss Babes is that we have those customers. You know what vintage costs. You understand what I'm saying? Like you've done your research. You are aware there is a difference. Nothing wrong with thrifting, but there is a difference from thrifting and vintage. So if someone is coming to you and say, I have brought you a 1960s or a 1950s rockabilly dress or an A-line, you done broke it down. Who's the designer? You know, what size, pit to pit. There's no flaws. You should not have a problem with if I'm giving it to you for $125 on this live. But if you come into the store, it is a different ball game. So a live will always, I will of course go down on the price because of course you're not in the store. You're on a live. We already know that some people are on a budget, you know, but they still want to still be able to afford beautiful vintage pieces.
Love it. Thank you so much for sharing that, Zoe.
Thanks.
So we are going to move on to Odilia, and then Maggie, unfortunately, had to jump off to charge her phone. And if we can't hear from Maggie at this moment, we'll segue back. Oh, there she is. We will segue back. All right, Odilia, tell us more about your pricing strategy. And you might be on mute as well.
There we go. Hi, I'm Odilia again. I forgot to say the name of my business. It's Styled by Odilia. I'm not as cutesy and adorable, and I didn't put as much thought into it as most people, but it was out of necessity. So I use my name as my brand. The other thing I also learned in the last 10 minutes, I'm the oldest one on here. So that was fun. That was a fun moment. I think we have to preface this by that we all understand that vintage is not regular retail. Regular retail is stagnant and our prices are not. They're completely fluid. And I love when people say it's worth whatever someone's going to flip and pay for it. And that's true with vintage. But our costs are not like regular retail, not like regular retail fashion. So if I'm buying, and it can't be said enough, whether it's sourcing or our customers, I don't know who said it. I'm sorry. It was wonderful. Relationships. I've spent 20 years building relationships from my vendors, and that's estate people and my pickers and the women that I go to, and they know what I want, and they come to me, and some have become some of my greatest friends, but they're not giving me the same price I'm getting at, say, a really high-end auction house or a live or whatever. And remember, I'm both. I'm buying fashion and jewelry at the same time, so my prices are all over the place. But if my prices are over here from my relationships, and I've got much higher end inventory over here, I really do try to keep to that 2.3 to 2.7 retail formula for the items that are here, for in the middle. Obviously, if I'm getting them from my relationships a lot less expensive, then it's going to be a little bit higher. If I'm investing in a $100, $150 piece of jewelry, I'm not going to mark it up 3 times and take it to a live. I'm not even going to do that on I'm going to bring my price point down, but for some reason that's what I wanted and that's what I paid for it. So I try to stay in that formula right here. And as far as lives go, this is the stuff median down to this end are the things I'm putting in the lives. The things I'm going to get the best price point for. I have a lot of inventory coming in on a weekly basis since I'm doing both. So I can make an order on a Monday and go, okay, so I've got a live this weekend. I'm going to pick some things that I know are going to fall in the price point for that live. And then when I rack up enough pieces that I haven't worked with or whatever, that's the pieces that kind of go into clearance. In other words, it's all relative to what I spent on it, but I'm not going to put my most pricey things in a live, obviously. And it's just relative to what I spend. I think Zoe brought up research it's besides relationships, it's research. I think if we are not investing in the right photo applications, in the right software for our picks, if we're not investing in things like Price Miner or going just to go to Gem or eBay sold items, or I love things like Price Point. And yeah, it costs money a month, but don't think I'm not writing all that stuff off at the end of the year. If we're investing in our business and in our research, then we shouldn't be having to guess too much about our pricing. It's just putting in a little bit extra work, but then I never question what I'm pricing. I'm doing the research. I'm looking at what these pieces of sell for, and based on what my garment is. If I'm looking at prices sold for $50, very comparable in the last year, I'm looking on Price Point or whatever, but mine is significantly better, I'm going to take that into account as well, just like somebody else was talking about condition. So excellent points. And I'm going to give you a little bit extra time because you brought something up I was not aware of. What is Price Point and how can we access it and how much does it cost per year? I'm sorry, repeat that last part. You went out a little bit.
No worries. What is Price Point and how can we access it and how much is it per year?
Oh, it's you can get online. I'm happy to send you the link after this or put it in the comments. That's even worse. It's about $29. It's not cheap. The one I use, Price Point, is about $29.95 a month, which is not cheap, and especially when there's not an app or a research app or a pick app that comes out within the month that I'm not sampling within the next 30 days. And sometimes I'm like, that's all right. Or maybe I'm going to do photo room and then I'm going to add pick point and then I'm going to add this here. I put a lot of, I, unlike Shanae, don't have an artistic bone in my body. I'm not going to do this stuff. I don't know how to come out with these amazing pictures and and I don't, while I know a lot over 20 years, it's not all in my head. So I need these things. I need these tools and they are investments in my business. So yeah, it's $29.95 a month for that particular one, which I'm happy to give the link to, but there are others. Gem is a great one and it's free. The point is, if you're not using these tools that are out there, then, you're really doing your own business a disservice because you're not going to get the right dollar amount.
Right. Thank you so much. And yes, let's get that link in the comments and also in the group tomorrow. Odilia. Thank you so much. Okay.
Odilia, sorry, quick question, Sammy. Is it like WorthPoint? Like, is it similar to that program?
Similar.
Yeah, it's similar to
It's WorthPoint. She said price point, and then I said price point. It's WorthPoint.
It's
and
worth
there are
it.
others.
Oh,
And there are others. Price Miner was my favorite for years. Price Miner. It's gone down a little bit. The more you can use, I think, like Gem is great, but it's giving you current prices. WorthPoint is Price Miner. Is great because it's giving you what sold now. WorthPoint I love because it's telling you what sold in the last 20 years, but you can filter that into the last 5 years or whatever. So I mean, these are just great resources.
And they actually
Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, guys, we're on this panel, but we're also learning stuff too.
Yeah, it's amazing. Zoe, you were saying? Uh-oh, she's freezing up a little bit. Say that again, love. Unless you're frozen. Yeah, I think she's frozen. Oh,
if I could chime in for a second, Odilia and Zoe made a very good point, and that's me coming from the retail background. Clienteling is a big thing, and I would say price pointing and clientele, how the two collide is because when you know your clients, you'll know what to bring to them. You know how what piece you're going to show, what price range, you know the client that you can probably knowledge them, and then they'll understand, and then they're willing to pay that amount. But it's definitely about understanding your client and knowing that coming from selling, that's the key to also having a successful platform and live sale, because you're going to know that particular client, you're going to know what's on your rack, you're going to know who's in front of you, and you can pretty much kind of say, okay, I know they're going to buy the 3-4 pieces, but knowledge of your client is definitely having a great successful platform. Pricing, definitely, because they go hand in hand. You're gonna price accordingly, but like Odilia said, you're not gonna go to this platform and you're not gonna show this. If you get what I'm saying. So it's very important to know your client and know your platform and know your merchandise.
Awesome. Thank you, Shanae. Thank you. So we are going to move on to our last panelist for this question. And I am curious to hear what Maggie also has to say, if she wasn't already considering discussing it, how the cost of travel is integrated into the pricing of her garments. For those of you who don't know, Maggie spends a lot of time on the road and has even hosted a live sale here in Vintage Boss Babes from a location in Detroit. That was a highly successful sale. So Maggie, tell us more about your pricing strategy.
Okay. So as far as travel goes, I mean, it's all in how you factor the cost of doing business, right? So your travel expenses and your inventory. For me, that's the total package cost. So when I'm looking at the number of pieces that I bought on that trip, I look at my total investment of that trip. I look at the total investment of my inventory, and that is divided by the number of pieces I got. That's basically my item cost. That's what I have in it. That's my cost per unit, you can say. So I have margin targets. That's how I work my business. And obviously there are exceptions to that rule. I mean, Odilia hit on it perfectly. You have certain pieces that you have to get more out of, and you have certain pieces that you have more invested in that maybe you don't need to get 3 times what you invested, but you're still going to get a great return on that investment. So for me, it's an overall margin target for my business, and how that shakes out is a little differently per piece. But when I travel, that's all wrapped into my cost per unit.
And I know, Maggie, you work a lot with spreadsheets just based on some of our personal conversations. Can you briefly explain to our viewers what you include in those spreadsheets and how they help you to make buying decisions?
So my spreadsheets, I live and die by them. I mean, it's what I do around the clock. So for my business though, it's the item, right? It's the description of the item. It's the cost of that item. I'm also logging any sort of, if I have dry cleaning expenses, if I have alteration expenses, if I have to go buy labels for my label maker expenses. I'm logging all of that, and I'm categorizing those expenses by buckets. So my inventory is one bucket, which has its own spreadsheet, which is my itemized inventory log. On the itemized inventory log, you have the description of that item and the cost of that item, when that item sells, and the price that you got for that item. And then on the other spreadsheets, you have all of your expenses, right? Your travel expenses. That can be your airfare, your lodging, your rental car, I don't track the gas that I spend, but I do have an app that I use called Mileage Tracker. And basically it's on all the time, and I drive around, and all I have to do is swipe if it's a business trip, or swipe the other way if it's personal. So that just automatically calculates all my business mileage for me. So at the end of the year, that's a tax deduction.
Love it. That's awesome. That's incredible. Thank you so much for sharing, Maggie. So guys, we are going to move on to our question. It is 10:02, and we briefly discussed the what our panelists tonight would suggest for someone who's very busy and doesn't think they have time to promote their live sales. I think that we covered that pretty well, and I want to make sure that we stay pretty tight on time, or pretty close to our time. So I'm actually going to skip over to promo question number 3. And this is a big one, guys, and this is a big one for Vintage Boss Babes. My goal as admin is to sell more vintage. How can my live sellers know how to take their 75-minute investment, and we all know it's much more than 75 minutes, and maximize their results? And some of us have different strategies than others. So I want to hear from our panelists on our promo panel how they maximize their replay sales. So for those of you who are tuning in that might be new to live selling, a replay sale is basically when someone follows up with you, whether it's over DM, email, smoke signal, or on the comments of the live, and wants to purchase something that did not sell during the live. But there's also ways to sell additional items post live, and a few of our panelists are going to talk about that tonight. So I'm going to ask Melissa to jump in about that first. So Melissa, how have you found the replay sales to benefit not only your business, but do you have any strategies to increase them?
I do. Well, first of all, if you're doing the 75-minute live sale, definitely do your what's left video. And I've seen there are different ways that you can make it work. Some people just, set up a camera and they just, will go through the rack and show. That might be the easiest way to do it. I mean, I've done all different kinds of things where I'll edit things together. I'll put music to it. It depends on how much time you have, but by all means, do that and be prepared to answer questions and give information about your measurements. Have your spreadsheet handy or whatever you have, so that when somebody asks a question, you can get back to them right away. What I also like to do is I do have an Etsy store. And I have had people who will ask me, oh, well, do you have a store? It's like, well, I don't have a physical store, but here's my Etsy. And I have sold pieces, for full price on my Etsy from people who have watched my replay and wanted to know if I had anything else to sell. So whatever other platforms that you might have, that's a good chance to also direct people to where you have other items listed.
I love that, Melissa. And that is something that I try to remind people. And I think some people don't do it because they're like, I don't know if this is allowed. So I'll just announce right now, you guys can always say on your live, I've got Etsy, I've got Instagram, I'm selling.
DMing you, here's the link. Absolutely.
Exactly. What have you found really quickly before we move on to another panelist? Because there's a couple of different ways to host a What's Left. You can do photos, and this is just, we're speaking about Vintage Boss Babes. You can post photos of the items that did not sell during the live. And I just trust that you guys are honest about that. You can do a video, different types of videos. What has worked best for you, Melissa?
A combination of both. I will have, I don't always fit into everything, as I know, a lot of us do not fit into all of the clothes that we wear, but I find that I have the most success with things that I am able to either model on myself. And I have actually done like live videos with people and been like, you want to see what it looks like? What are you doing right now? Like, I'll go put it on right now, or I'll put it on a mannequin and I'll twirl the mannequin around and I'll show you what it looks like. And I know not everybody can do that, but if you can, it is a good way to not just maybe sell that particular item, but you've just gone the extra mile for somebody. So, they will stick out in their memory as somebody that will, just give them a little something extra. But what I also do is whatever I'm showing somebody, I am filming. If you have an iPhone, I promise you, I was like, it was 2 weeks ago when I discovered that you could like film stuff from your iPhone and like, just chop it up. And so whatever I'm filming, I am recording so that I can repurpose it on my social and blah, blah, blah. So I'm also repurposing my lives to TikTok, to Instagram, so that people can, use that footage that you get and put it on there. And that's another way that you can resell from your replay on other platforms.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you so much, Melissa. I'm going to move on to Natalie. And I know Natalie uses a unique software, which I would love for her to talk about if she wasn't planning on talking about it. So Natalie, how do you maximize your post live sale replay?
So to be honest, I do not do the
What's left.
What's left. I don't use that mainly because I have reply sold. And the one thing about reply sold is that people can watch the replay and they can comment like they're watching the live. Let's say they have item number 100. They can put in item number 100. They'll know right away if the item is sold or not, right? And so they are being able to watch the replay and check out in their inbox, and then I just get a notification that I have a sale. So to be honest, I haven't done a what's left video in 2 years because I'm getting those sales in my sleep. So that's the one thing that I love about reply sold, because I am making money in my sleep and people check out and I don't have to run after people, right? So I just like hearing cha-ching, and that means I have money.
Because there may be people tonight that don't know what reply sold is. Can you briefly share with us what that is?
So reply sold is it's still part of Loyal Shops, which is your normal bot, right? But it's just an upgrade to Loyal Shops, where I have a Shopify store and I connect it to Loyal Shops when I go live. So it takes whatever inventory I put in my Shopify store and it uploads. So when I go live, I just scan it. And, when a person comments sold and the item number, then it goes straight to their messenger. And when they're finished watching the live, they check out. So, and what I love about it, you can use any form of payment, credit card, debit card. I have buy now, pay later, right? So that helps out a lot when people, are like, ooh, I only have $25, but they see something they like for $100. And so they can pay the $25 now and then another $25 in 2 weeks. And so that helps increase my sales. And to be honest, I don't touch that money. I just like to see it grow, because you actually grow interest, daily interest on my sizzle money. So I'm just letting that grow. So I don't touch it. But that is something that I do. That is another source of income that I do, where I set people Shopify stores up and train them for 4 hours, and then, you know, being their coach through that whole process. So that's just another source of income that I have. So I've been doing that for almost 2 years. So, but when I think of improving customer service, always being available, you know, but set time limits of when people can message you, right? So don't feel obligated that if a person is watching your live at 1 a.m. that you need to respond. I found that if I set my time limit of, you know, after 9 o'clock, I'm not looking at any messages, really does help. And I have a bot. If you have a if you have your own Facebook page, you can set those time restraints of when your office hours, right? So they'll get an automatic notice, hey, I'm away right now, and I will respond to you immediately. So you don't feel like you have to automatically answer every message on time. And then preparing for my next live sale, for me, is setting time every week of looking at my inventory, knowing I got a live in next week, and curating my rack. So I'm not feeling rushed at the last minute. Everything's in my Shopify store, which only takes me less than a minute to put each item into my Shopify store and setting it. And so I'm not rushed. So, but that's basically what I do.
Awesome. Thank you so much for explaining that, Natalie. All right, I want to move on to Zoe because I don't want to lose her. Zoe, you're going to have to unmute yourself.
Yes, ma'am.
They're awesome. So I want to hear, so not only do I want to hear about any post-live replay sale strategies you have, but also for anyone out there that has other things going on, whether it's a brick and mortar store or some other avenue of selling, how live sales help to create a basically to drive customers to your store in Los Angeles, which I have not been to yet, but I will be one day.
So what I love to say is this, you know, during COVID, a lot of our stores were closed. With the grace of God, I was already doing lives a while ago, but then I started getting more involved in groups, and that also helped me to keep afloat during COVID time. You know, I was doing lives on a regular basis. Then I built some great relationships with a lot of these ladies. Whenever they would come to Los Angeles, I would be on their list to come and visit. I always have been doing flea markets. Like I do the Rose Bowl and I do Topanga. Those are the only two flea markets that I still do here in Los Angeles. But I also decided last year to go on the road. And a lot of people also are like, oh, I've seen you on a live on Facebook, or you just never know who you're going to run into from doing lives on Facebook. You know, you don't know who's actually on those pages, but you'd be surprised. You may be somewhere and they'd be like, oh, I seen you on this live, or I bought something from you. And I was like, oh, well, hey, how you doing? You know, but lives really kept me alive during COVID. I must say, having a brick and mortar.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Zoe, because again, the motivational beauty of hosting lives, guys, is that you are building a reputation and people want to see what else you're up to. And I think that owning a brick and mortar store is a great example of, you know, something that people want to check out as they get to know you on a live. So Zoe, if we lose you permanently, that's why I did just ask you to answer this question, because I'm really afraid we're going to lose you. Thank you so much for being on tonight.
I want to first commend you. I mean, I see what you do, and I've seen a lot of groups on Facebook. And what I love about what you are doing is that you are also educating. You're also allowing people to learn more about reselling. I mean, every time I look, you have some kind of course. And I think it's beautiful because you have to pay. You have to invest in yourself. If you're
Oh, we lost her. Thank you, Zoe. I actually have Zoe's phone. I will maybe we can get back on. But if you guys are a follower of Zoe, please send her a thank you message in the comments because she might not be jumping back on. Shanae, are you with us? I don't see you. I would like you to talk about your post-live sale replay strategy if you are with us. And then I'm going to move on to Jordan, and then we're going to talk about pricing.
Yes, I will. Yes, I will.
Me to be, it's not even going to allow me to be great. But what I will say, if you can read my lips, Sammy, keep doing what you're doing. You're doing a phenomenal job. You're really educating the women out here and the men to do something phenomenal, because reselling, knowing about vintage is a longevity. It is a business that will go on. It will never end. If you do your research, you will know that you have something. It's all about finding those pieces. It's all about building those relationships. It's all about investing in yourself. It costs money to make money. And once you know that, life will be so good to you. And on that note, because it's hot in here, it's going to die on me again. I wish each and every one of you ladies so much success. God bless each and every one. Never forget that we're all stars in our own way, and we're all fashionistas. God bless and good night.
Thank you, Zoe.
Bye.
Yay! We got a complete share. Shanae, you were about to jump in. We are ready for you, boss babe. And if you are on mute, you may, yes, I think you're on mute. Yep.
Okay, so you won't see me for a second because my phone is uploading. But so what I do for when I go back and I do replay, yes, that is amazing to show, of course, the video with all the things that are left over. But what another good thing is to do, if you really go through all your comments, and just, well, besides trying to catch to see if there's other sales that people have came back, I like to really see what people are saying. Like, do you have this? What size? Oh, I'm looking for this, is what I gather from a lot of my lives when I go back and look. That helps me to see next time what I can put on there to make it a more better live. But going back to how I maximize that is basically, if the person is, say, replay sold, I would like, the piece you sold with the red, I may come to them and personally inbox them and tell them, hey, I have something really great to go with that. Would you like to see, the add-on or the pants, or would you like, I have something similar to that, so I try to get a little bit of what the customer is also in the market to buy, because that little one piece sell could lead to something else. And that's, of course, if it's sort of, in a sense, if you're willing to go above and beyond, because, a lot of times we're like, okay, replay number, okay, I have it, I'll send you the invoice. But, you never know, because a lot of times, me as a customer as well, I might not ask you for anything else, but I am in the market to get something else, because what happens with these lives is that, from what I see and what I do, I'm just going to hop on the next live to see what I can find, when really the last person I bought from, they probably had it in their back stock. So, I mean, that's a way of getting more out of your life. You just have to really kind of go above and beyond, which is my strategy.
That's such great advice. I mean, really, I would say the term is upselling to a certain extent.
Yes, upselling, yes.
But also keeping in mind, those of us listening, that, a poly mailer is pretty big. And it was just one little thing. It's like, people might as well add 1 to 2 more things because the shipping is going to be the same. Am I right?
Exactly, yes.
Thank you, Shanae. I'm going to move on to Jordan to wrap out this question. And then we're going to have our pricing question with our pricing panelists, which will most likely take us to about 10:35, 10:37. And then we're going to go over Q&A. So start asking your questions now for our live viewers. So Jordan, how do you maximize your post-live sale replay?
Okay, I agreed with the kind of going over the comments at the end when you get a chance, because I've noticed sometimes there'll be people who buy several items and then end up passing on some at the end, or like if they find something they like better. So if it's something I've shown before or something that I wouldn't mind dropping the price a little bit on, sometimes I'll just offer, hey, I noticed that you passed on this item. What if it was this price? That has helped me some. I try to make sure that I share my live video onto my personal profile and just say, hey, if you missed this, please watch the replay. And then also, after I have sent the initial invoices, I think just popping up once again and just saying, hey guys, I've sent all the invoices. Thanks for being there last night. There's still a lot of great items, kind of thing. Just in case they missed seeing you before, just to pop up once more if we have the opportunity, I think is a big thing.
That's excellent, Jordan. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's great advice. Love it, love it, love it. All right, guys. So we are going to move on to pricing question number 3. And this is a big one, because a lot of us see one another run sales. And we run sales. We have different themes or different reasons for running the sales or whatever. But why? Why do we run sales? Why do we price things on sale in particular? So I want to hear from our pricing panelists about that topic. For a second. Yeah, here we go. So the question is, how do you price, market, and decide what items to sell on sale in a clearance sale? Why do you feel it's appropriate to put said items on sale? So I want to talk to Maggie about that first. So Maggie, especially with your experience in pricing at Michael's, how do you decide to put your items on sale?
So for me, it kind of depends on why I bought the item to begin with. So, and my investment in that item. So if I invested in a piece and the purpose for that piece was to go into my live sales, and I've shown that piece 3 or 4 times, 4 or 5 times in different markets to different customers, I've lowered the price a couple times here and there, and it's not moving at the price that I want to get, then at that point, I need to free up my space so that I can go reinvest in my business. So I'm going to lower the price to, normally it's not below cost, but right above cost, to get it out the door so that I can reinvest into better inventory that I can go make my margins on. So for me, I usually am rotating through my inventory seasonally. I try to move through things at least 4 times a year so that I can reinvest in my business. But it's different for every person. Each person's space that they're able to store their inventory in is different. Not everybody has, you know, a warehouse, a storage unit, an attic, a basement. Not everybody has that ability to hold on to inventory. So you have to do what's right for you. And you also don't want to get into inventory debt. So if you're investing in your business and you have you have a mountain of inventory, but you're not making a profit on that inventory, then you need to think about what you're investing in, right? You need to make smarter investments at that point. But, you know, I think you need to be very mindful about where you're investing your money. And for me, clearance is about getting out of that inventory that perhaps wasn't the best investment. Maybe I learned something from that investment. Maybe I learned, you know what, people really don't like acid wash. So hopefully, hopefully take lessons from the investments that you make that aren't the best investments. And on the flip side, you also take lessons from those things that you're able to really stretch the return on. So I think it's a journey. You know, for me, I have learned so much over the last 3 years. My first live was actually with Sammy on Vintage Boss Babes. And I feel like the journey I've made over this last, you know, 2.5, 3 years has been phenomenal. It's been crazy. What I've learned about myself has been crazy. You have to do what's right for you, what you need to get out of your business. And for clearance, for me, it's about getting out of dead inventory that's not moved for me. You know, usually that inventory is stuff I purchased with the intent to sell it in the live. It's not moved in my lives. So let's get rid of it at cost. If I can't get rid of it right above cost, I'm going to donate it. You know, I'm going to donate it and send it back out into the world.
Vintage karma is what we call
That's right. That's right.
Thank you, Maggie. Thank you so much for sharing that. And for those of us that are tuning in, inventory debt is a really powerful word. Some of us call it I'm a shopaholic or I'm a fashion hoarder. It all means the same thing. It just depends on why you are choosing to have so much clothing. So I'm sure our other panelists tonight will speak on that as well. I'm going to move on to Odilia, and then I'm going to move on to Natalie, and I'm going to have Autumn wrap us tonight on this question. So Odilia, when do you decide to put one of your garments on sale? And also remind us how many garments you get and accessories you get each and every week into your business so that we can understand your process and mindset.
Okay, I'm sorry. I had to switch phones because StreamYard apparently sucks the juice right out of our phone. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you're great. Great,
okay, because I'm having a hard time hearing y'all. Well, it's not, I mean, there's a reason, you know, there's not a lot of us doing like the same amount of fashion and jewelry because you're paying twice as much. So I get in, I buy in bulk. I buy from my state friends who actually call me in to buy out clothing before they open it to the public. I have vendors in Texas who are pickers who go and find the pieces and sort of culminate them or curate them for individual buyers like myself. And then I have the same thing, although I just call them jewelry dealers, doing the jewelry. So it's a tough question, but I wish my husband wasn't sitting across the room. I probably bring in, I probably purchase about, I'm just going to roughly say between 40 and 100 pieces a week. And we'll say somewhere around there, you know. Last week was but if I'm buying wholesale jewelry, then I might be buying a lot, like I might be buying 100, you know, of just that. So it's different. So for me, it's about moving it. obviously, in whatever ways I can. So if I'm putting stuff on sale, it's because I've ended up with a lot of inventory, what I call like excess inventory. It's not the stars. It's not the reason I bought this particular lot or this particular estate, but but I got them for the same great price. So now if I know that, I can move them out quickly in a live, in a clearance, in a whatever. But, you know, I'm human. I have flaws. One of my flaws is I have inventory ADD. I might be in love with this stack of stuff today, and then I get in stuff in 3 days, and I'm like, "What about this stuff you loved 3 days ago?" It's like an ex. I don't even care anymore. I'm over here. My interest is over here. So I mean, that's something I work on for sure. Thank God there are outlets for us to get. I don't want to end up with inventory at the end of the year. I certainly don't. I don't want to end up with excess inventory. So however I can get rid of it, I'm gonna get rid of it, but I also do pop-ups. I'm super lucky that I have, one of the relationships I have is with a really high-end chain of boutiques here in Texas that can not just move things, some of my, a certain type of my inventory, but they can move them at prices that I can't. So, I mean, whatever you have to do. But if I find myself in an excess amount of inventory of lingerie that I've done nothing with, or jewelry that came with jewelry I was looking for, well, then that's what I'm going to move. And I don't know, it's different for everybody. And yeah, I hope that answered the question. If I haven't moved it, it's going into sale.
Basically, yeah. Basically, you are a speedy seller, and all of us that are listening in tonight might have a different amount of lives per month or selling avenues per month. So we might not.
And if I can, I'm sorry, I'm going to jump in on something that you asked me to talk about, and I completely forgot about. And it's really with we were talking about with the promotion ladies. But I mean, I think it was Natalie that said, who doesn't like to wake up after a live after you're exhausted because you've done the prep and you've had the live, you're exhausted, you go to bed and you wake up and you see replay sold. It's great. But that's the best feeling in the world. But we were talking, Sammy and I talked a couple days ago about my live, the replays, and then there's the replay sale, and then there's the after sale. The after sale is I never get to the amount of items that I have on my preview. And that's because I really do kind of follow the crowd. If I'm in the middle of a live and I take a break and I say, because I go very fast, I talk very fast, I do this during my live as well, maybe even faster. I take a break somewhere half between and go, how are we doing, everybody? Stick with the clothing? Do you want to see some more bags? Do you want me to just switch over to the clothing or the jewelry rather? And I follow whatever that is. So invariably there's things on my preview that I don't get to. And I do get the messages like with a screenshot from the preview going, did I miss this or did you just skip right over it? I didn't get to it. But if I have, and I like VIP rather than regular, but if I have a VIP that's bought some pieces at my live as usual, and there's things that I know they would have liked to see from my preview that I didn't get to, then it's not going to take me but like 5 minutes after, and I mean immediately after the sale, to say, hey, I forgot to show you this, and I know you would have seen it if you want to, and I'll shoot a quick voice clip because it's so personal. I hate texting anyway, but voice clips are nice. They hear your voice, and a little video of, I know you would have liked this if you want me to add it. Jewelry dealers do that to me all the time. They're worse than like crack dealers. I swear. It's like, hey, I've got 2 more inches in your box. You want to look at some brooches? Yeah, I do. Absolutely. And it's the same concept in reverse. If I see that there are pieces that I didn't get to that the people that did purchase from I know are interested in, then it takes no time at all to send voice clips, a couple of pics in a video, and add $200, $300, $500 to the bottom line. And that's more of an after sale than a replay, but it's super simple. And I know I appreciate it when I'm the buyer, so it works as a seller.
Awesome. I think we've heard from both yourself and Shanae about that post live upsell, quote unquote, or just, hey, as you're saying, I didn't get a chance to share this. You might like this. And again, it comes back to all of our live viewers, nurturing those relationships and not being afraid to be a friend and to know your customers. So I'm going to hand the mic over to Autumn. She's going to wrap us tonight. Autumn, I'd love to hear your personal pricing. And you, I know as a hobby seller as well, which you did share with us earlier tonight, your personal pricing strategy when it comes to putting something on sale or lowering the price. Oh, sorry, babe. You're muted. All good.
I'm such a noob. Okay, I might be the unpopular opinion here, but I don't really put things on sale ever. I just don't. I'm like, I've got now at first, I used to get very over inundated with inventory because I would go to thrifting and sourcing with the mindset like, oh, this could sell, this could sell, this could sell, not this will sell, this will sell, this will sell. So that took my inventory down massively because I decided to start focusing on more higher profit pieces. And so again, because I don't do this as my full-time job, I don't need to worry so much about like the bread and butter everyday sales. I can kind of hold out for those really special pieces. And sometimes that means I'm sourcing online and I'm paying a higher price for an item. Sometimes I'll even pay up for an item I'm not going to make a huge profit on, but I like to let my people show my people I can get these types of pieces in. Now I'm still making a profit, but it's not going to getting something for $3 and selling it for $50. I might be getting something for $30 and selling it for $100, something like that.
Right.
So I'm kind of a believer in like everything sells eventually. I mean, but again, that took me a long time to figure that out. It's because I've been doing it for a while. I have figured that out for myself. So, but at first, yeah, all the time I was so stubborn. I was like, I'm not going to redonate. I'm not going to redonate. Like, no, like I would be so stubborn. Like, I'm not going to lose out on money. And, but I have some, but I do that. I don't remember the last time I've had to redonate something. I've tried to be very picky and specific about the pieces that I sell. So, but every once in a while, like Odilia was saying, I do pop-ups and stuff too. I sell in brick and mortars. I sell in consignment. So I might buy a piece, try it on the live on Instagram. If it doesn't sell there, maybe a Facebook Live. It doesn't sell there, I'm going to take it to the vintage shop to Nomads in Norfolk. If it doesn't sell there, I'm going to take it to this consignment shop. Like, depending on the piece. Of course, if the piece is worth that time and money, I will do that. Or I'll just hold on to it for another season because we all know vintage never goes out of style because it's vintage. So if it doesn't sell this season, I have like, say, a bag of sweaters that are dope. I'm not selling these sweaters for $10 because they're fire. I'm going to put them in the closet and I'm going to bring them back out next year and they will sell. And they do. So that's just kind of how I personally go about doing things for me.
I'm all about the unpopular opinion because, again, tonight's panel, I chose each and every one of you. There were many, many, many other boss babes that would have been awesome on this panel, but you all represented something different. You represented a different mindset, perspective, angle, execution around live sales. And so for anyone who is still tuning in, my goodness, we have 56 live viewers. Y'all, give yourselves a round of applause. If you still have a question, please ask it in the comments. I did see a few questions that I'm going to pose to our panelists who are on right now. Natalie?
So I just want to say, I go right with Autumn. I wish I was at that point. I think for me, I do sales. Sometimes I get tired of seeing the same thing. Like if I've shown it 2 times and it has not sold, I get tired of looking at it. And so it goes on sale, right? If it doesn't go on sale, then I redonate it. But I like to buy. So I like to change my racks up a lot. And plus I have a whole vintage vault full of stuff. So I'm always pulling stuff, but I just get tired of looking at the same stuff. So that's the only main reason why I do sales. I'm ready to move on to the next thing. But so I think some other people do that too. They get tired of looking at that same piece.
Yeah. Right. Thank you, Natalie. So real fast, if you guys haven't asked your question in the comments, please do. For those of us who are still tuning in live, before we jump into a few of the questions that are in the comments, I'm going to quickly announce our next Monday night panel here at Vintage Boss Babes. I've decided to give us Monday night off, summer 2022. On a personal level, I'm exhausted, but I decided to add more work to my life. No, just kidding. I wanted to do something new and create educational material so that we can spread word of Vintage Boss Babes and help fellow resellers to be empowered. So our next panel, if I can actually find, I might not have actually put it as a text banner, so I'm just going to share it with you guys right here. On July 25th, we are going to be hearing from 3 sellers. One of them is featured on tonight's panel, and that's Odilia, Avalos, Barton. We'll be hearing from Odilia, Maddie, and Bryn. They are our featured Lux for Less live sellers. We're going to be talking about luxury resale. We are going to be discussing why luxury resale matters, the pricing behind luxury resale, how luxury brands have come to be luxury brands. We're probably going to talk a lot about the history of some of these brands. It's going to be a really great roundtable conversation. So please mark your calendars for July 25th. That is next Monday. So the question that I want to pose, and anyone who's tuning in tonight, any of our panelists who are still on tonight, if you just want to jump in and answer that. Sheila asked this great question, and it goes back to just when we're busy, right? When we're busy running our lives and our live sales. So she asked, how do you coordinate promoting 2 to 3 days in advance when you have back-to-back sales on different platforms? I know, Natalie, you do that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, so one thing that I do is when I was doing lots of lives in a week, I've scaled back tremendously for health purposes. But what I would do is create a list of where's Nat, right? So and it tells where all I'm going to be at for the week, right? So I may do that on Sunday, so at least my people know, oh, on Monday I'm here, on Wednesday I'm here, on Friday I'm here, in advance, right? And even if you just can pick just a couple pieces just to promo, you don't have to be completely rock ready before the live, but just pick something that you know is real cute as you're starting to set, and go ahead and snap that picture right then and there. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to take that picture, 2 to 3 days before. That picture can be taken at any given time so that you can easily create that content right before, 2 to 3 days in advance. But that has helped me by doing a where's Nat when I have multiple lives back to back to back. So my followers know exactly where I'm going to be.
I love that. Thank you so much. Anyone else want to jump in and answer that? Anyone else here that does back-to-back live sales? Autumn, would you talk about hosting on Instagram really, really fast? Because you are one of our Instagram live sellers.
Yeah, no, for sure. I was very blessed and fortunate. One of my first live sale ever was with with Vintage Boss Babe. So I'm so grateful to Sammy to turning me onto it. I love it. It's great. And I was so fortunate, because I was like, people are like, well, how do you do that? Isn't that scary on a live? And I'm like, well, no, I just talk to everybody like they're my friends and they like cool vintage stuff and we just talk about it, and but also I come from, like a dance like background and stuff like that. So I'm not, no secret, I'm not super shy. So that helps too. But yeah, so what I've done is just, I try to get in with the community over there. I follow a lot of ladies on Instagram and I'm always talking to them, and just because I'm not doing it for my growth. Like I'm not doing like follow for follow. Like I follow people that I really love and I believe in what they're doing and I enjoy that. And they're just very kind and they're very supportive, and just, it kind of domino effect. You support, share this, share that. And just, I've gotten all these followers and I'm just like, I haven't done anything. Like I'm the lazy guys on any given day. I'm the busiest, laziest person you've ever met. I'm either doing everything or I'm sleeping all day. It's not like I'm depressed or anything. I don't have kids. I'm in my late 30s and I just get tired and I want to sleep, and that's okay. But I just have tried my best to just talk to people, just message people, just reach out and chat. And then, you start selling and you're like, well, they've got like 9 people on this live, but 2 or 3 people buy every time you're on live. And then they tell their friends, and then it grows and it grows. And they start to see the kind of pieces you like, and they gravitate toward your style. And it just takes a little bit, but it just kind of happens. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, there's 30 people on my live, and these ladies keep coming and buying from me and DMing me, Audie, do you have this? Do you have that? Because they've seen what I show, and they like the stuff I like. So you just kind of curate your audience. And I think just, it just kind of happens organically. And that might sound really like cheesy and like, but it just kind of does. And I'm just really fortunate that, because I think at the end of the day, when you're selling an item, I don't mean to, but I guess you're selling yourself, right? Like people are attracted to you. I'm like, people are buying this from me, but they could go buy it from somebody else. Like if it's not a super rare piece, but like I have to tell you guys a story. I don't know if you guys, there was this Instagram live the other night with Unconventional Beauty. There was a jacket on there. It was a one of a kind piece jacket. I've sold it before for like $300. It's a great jacket. There's actually one online right now for $500. Guys, there was a bidding war, and this jacket sold for $2,300 on a live sale between two women who were bidding. The price of the jacket started at $185, and they bid it up to $2,300. Even in the live, the seller said, this jacket's online for $500. Didn't matter. They wanted it from that seller.
Interesting.
That is a supporter. Those are your people. So you just stay true to yourself and you curate your people, and like, that's it. So that's why I really like Instagram so much, because people just kind of organically find you and follow you. And yeah.
That's such a great point. I love that point. I also have to give a disclosure that I don't allow bidding on our live sales. A few people have snuck them on. But the reason being that I can't really take liability for that with my business. But
some people don't like bids. Sometimes if you start bids, you'll see your numbers go down, and that's okay. And sometimes people will be like, heads up, guys, this is a bidding live, or heads up, guys, we are not doing bids tonight. So that just depends personally on the seller as well. So absolutely.
But that is a really great idea if you're, taking it on your own personal page, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So I want to move on to Jordan. We did have a lot of questions tonight, which is great, because that means our panelists were so thorough. But I do want to talk to Jordan about something that she did not bring up, and that is her personal style and how she shows up to her lives. And I think Jordan knows that she does it, but this is what I see, is I see someone who makes it a special event with what she's wearing. Can you talk more about that, Jordan?
Yeah. Well, I found that I started doing lives during COVID, and I wasn't going anywhere really. And so it was like my special night to dress up and be with friends. And so I feel like I dress up more for my lives than I do for like my regular life. But it's also kind of my one of my creative outlets. And I just love color play, and I love mixing patterns and everything. But first of all, I've noticed in pretty much every sale ever, someone's going to be complimenting what you're wearing and wanting to know if you're selling it. So I need to do better about wearing something that I'm actually selling, because I feel like it would sell every time. But most things I wear anyways, I'm willing to sell for the right price, because, we have to trade it out. But I just think it's important that we're wearing something kind of flashy or something fun or something that's going to show the kind of stuff we're going to have on our racks. Because when people are scrolling through or click on you, they'll see like, oh, I vibe with that, or that's something that might inspire me. So I tried to inspire fun and just play with different materials and layering. So yeah, I don't know. It's just fun. It's just getting together with the girls and dressing up.
It's great. I love it. Thank you, because that was the point, is that when we express ourselves, the person who's scrolling through, whether they know us or don't know us, they're going to get an energetic vibe from what we're wearing. And it's okay not to be everything to everyone. That's not the point. The point is to be happy and self-loving and have fun. And Jordan, I think you're just such a great example of that. So thank you for inspiring us all with your personal self-expression. I want to move on to one more specific question and then open the floor for any final thoughts before we officially wrap, because it is 10:50 and Melissa is still with us. And I know that she probably has kiddos in bed. I want to ask her a very specific question because I've seen Melissa's journey, and I hope that this question inspires any of us that are tuning in live or watching the replay. Melissa, I remember, you probably remember, when we talked about selling some higher priced pieces on your live to increase the investment so that, you know, your return on investment with the Vintage Boss Babes live sale with one extra item at a higher price point was going to just change the game for you. And I specifically remember this one coat that you sold on a live. Can you just talk us through that process for you? Because it is always a mindset situation. And then how have you been able to apply that strategy to all of your lives here on out?
Right. Yeah. And we talked about this. There was definitely a fear factor for me where I was starting, as I was sourcing more, I was finding more valuable pieces, but I was afraid to price them higher because I thought that might turn people off in lives if I had a piece and they'd be like, ooh, that's too much. And you encouraged me to go for, I think you're talking about that 70s blue shearling jacket. Yes. The Turkish shearling, the floor length. It was an awesome thing, and I was like, you know what, I think I had it in the back, and you were like, wait, you got to sell that, you got to go for it, and I was like, I don't know about the price, and you were like, just go for it, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna put the price on it that I do my research, so I was like, this is a fair price. I'm just gonna put that price, and we're just gonna see what happens, and it sold in that live. So, my strategy is I try to, when I'm pricing things, especially now. As I'm trying to be more mindful of like my time, I'm trying to sell at a higher price point pieces that I think are worth it at that price point, because I would rather sell that one thing for, $200-$300 or whatever that I know is hard to find or is a rare design or whatever, than sell 30 items for like $10. I just don't have the bandwidth. I mean, there are people who do that, and God bless them. I just don't have the bandwidth to move a lot of merchandise at a small price point. And so I'm striving now to be more selective and build relationships where I'm finding the things that are at that price point. And that's kind of what I'm becoming known for now, is for finding those really rare, hard to find vintage designers, or just those unique handmade pieces that you're not going to see anybody else, and you're not going to find. And if you find it, pray that it's like in your size, so I'm trying to be at that level of selling, and that's been working out for me pretty well since you encouraged me to take that leap, so thank you for that.
So like quality over quantity.
Yes.
Thank you, Shanae. Yes. So ladies, Boss Babes, thank you so much. Each and every of our panelists who are on live and were on the live. We had a few who had to jump off because of obligations such as sleep. I want to open the floor for any final comments before I close this out tonight. Anyone want to jump in? Anything that wasn't touched upon? Jordan?
So just something that I picked up on tonight that I have kind of learned over time is that when I first started picking things, I think that I was thinking kind of how Autumn said, this could sell instead of this will sell. And just the fact of getting too much inventory. I think it is so important. Like, if I could just focus on one thing that I've learned, it's that it has to be like, I think I like to pick up on other people's styles, and I buy things that I think certain people will like. But at the same time, I think it's so important to just buy things that are like very unique, or that you're very proud of to have in your collection, that you don't mind showing over and over and over again, instead of something that maybe is like a good brand, but a little more basic or something like that, something that really stands out. Because I'm figuring out now, because I'm going through, I have a Goodwill pile, I have a Buffalo Exchange pile, I'm trying to get it down. But it is figuring out how to condense, I think, so much, and just having those special pieces that you can keep around so you don't have tons and tons of inventory.
Right. Love that, Jordan. Thank you so much. I think Natalie. And then Odilia.
And the last for me is what works for one person may not work for you. So don't try to do exactly what somebody else is doing. Figure out what works for you and do it. So don't sit there and say, oh, well, Item is selling this type of thing. I think I'm going to sell the same thing, right? People are not coming to you for that. People are going to be coming to you for whatever it is that they're coming to you for. So don't chase the trends. Be who you are. Like, I pick out what I like, and if I like it, then I'm going to sell it. I'm not one that says, oh, I think this may sell. No, it has to talk to me. So I don't want everyone on here trying to emulate everything that we do here. Take bits and pieces and figure out what's going to work for your business and what's going to make you stand out from everyone else. So I just wanted to kind of to put that in perspective for everyone.
Amazing. Thank you, Natalie. Yes, thank you. Okay, Odilia.
Hi, I was actually moving my hair, but I'll still. But that's okay. No, it's okay. I first of all, thank you for this evening. This is really nice. I think I know, for one, having worked alone for most of the 20 years I've been in business, I think we get used to keeping the information and the experience we've gathered to ourselves, because that's kind of how we're taught in business. And, we don't share what we've had to experience, learn. And this is sort of a really cool community where we're kind of able to teach. We're able to share. We don't have to give away every bit of intellectual property we own without being of service. So it's really we can still be here, share ideas. And I know it's just it's a big deal as resellers. Like, we don't want to share where we get our stuff, and we don't want to share how we do certain things. And this is a really good way to say you really can, because the internet, kind of a big place, and there really is enough out there for everyone. And what I did want to talk about just really briefly, Sammy, you had asked me to mention, I forgot, post on the page. Right. There are days when there's a handful of us posting all day long, and I go to Sammy and I'm like, should I stop? Because I'm sick of seeing my own name. And she's like, no, don't stop. But the point is, the more we post, and I know some of us are into that. I keep hearing that word, but I like that, like, immediate gratification of, like, the live. And I don't want to really do anything beyond that because I'm working live. But the more you post and the more you sell, the more buyers come to the page. It's like really cyclical, and it really is. No one's going to come to the page because I'm posting 25 times a day. I'm not posting 25 times a day, but if I did, no one's coming to look at my stuff. They're coming to see everything. And the more we sell, like, the more buyers we all bring in. So it's just, y'all post more, please.
Right. Yeah, my advice to anyone who's new is, like, just post once a day for the first 2 weeks. It's a game changer, because some of us here are more established. We don't have to post as much. Or we have full-time jobs, and that's just not a part of our daily regimen. But posting ourselves thrifting, posting a personal style post. I'm, working on becoming an Instagram influencer over here. So I take my reels and I post them onto the page. Guess who else does that? Melissa, because she's repurposing her content and she's being very smart about it. So there's a variety of ways that you can participate in any, buy-sell community here in Vintage Boss Babes. I do give you guys that liberty to post other types of content as long as it's fashion, vintage related, or some sort of business empowerment into the group. That's going to brand you just as much as posting an item for sale. So thank you, Odilia, for bringing that to our attention. So the only other amazing panelist that hasn't kind of jumped in with final thoughts, because Autumn, you kind of closed this out brilliantly, is Shanae. Shanae, do you have any final thoughts for us before we close our evening here?
My final thoughts is that, I just, for me and other sellers, that we all continue to grow.
Lost her. I think Shanae might have bedtime or just life obligations. So thank you, Shanae, for being on. So, like, it is 11 o'clock.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Yes, that
No worries.
we sorry that we grow. You know, years from now, I want to see us, you know, somewhere spectacular. You know, maybe
Yes.
we all can, you know, meet up and have a big, you know, party. But yeah, definitely. I've learned from everybody on this platform. I have sat and watched people lives, their strategies, how they sell, and I have learned from each and every one of you guys. It's amazing. And I'm still learning, and I hope to go on and learn more. And I just hope for great things for us in the future in this journey of selling, being resellers.
Perfect words to close this out, Shanae, because we're never done learning, especially with technology, because technology is always changing. And what we have right now, today, July 18th, 2022, will be very different July 18th, 2032. Think about it. It freaks me out sometimes. On that note, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. This has been a joy and an honor to lead this panel. Vintage Boss Babes is a buy-sell community that is celebrating its 3rd year in business. You can sign up as a registered seller at vintagebossbabes.com any day of the month, whenever you're ready. It's $25 a month to sell unlimited in the community. You can post up to 5 items for sale at once, and then you get the opportunity to purchase live sales. We have a lot coming up in Vintage Boss Babes. We are here and we are growing. Our first virtual conference will be October 2022, and our live sales are only going to get better, more niche, and more tailored for you, the beginner, intermediate, and advanced live seller. So with all that said, thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you to our panelists, and I'm going to close us out. Thank you guys. Thank you, viewers.